Now here we go. I've said before. Terrorism. So a stabbing of a racist person stabbing someone is now terrorism. This is a very interesting way of flipping the script. This had happened in the 80s, the 90s, the noughties. A few years ago. They were just going, racist prick stabs someone. Because with this kind of ideology, you'd be like, you'd label all gangs terrorists. Like, all gang violence would be attributed to terrorism because it's some sort of hate, because it's hatred of others. Postcode wars, different gangs hating different gangs, people from different areas not liking each other. Like, this isn't it not a similar thing? Well, it is, isn't it? Go home. Go back to where you came from. I'm going to stab you. It's all the fucking same thing. So what'll be next? Well, we know they've already clamped down on UK drill music. Police successfully. I mean, it's amazing what the police say they can't do, and yet they always do it. So they say, oh, we can't combat all this paedophilia on bloody internet, but they can get UK drill artists banned from YouTube, so they've had to go to Pornhub. Yeah, it's amazing what the police say they can't do and what they can do, isn't it? Constantly happening. Moaning on. Oh, you've cut our wages. We're not going to do any proper police work. Shut up. You still manage to do stuff, don't you? Yeah, so, you know, never listen to a whining policeman. It's pathetic. So terrorism, that's probably incitement of hatred against police. What I just said, that's what they'd probably do that, and probably, you know, I wouldn't be surprised. Criticism of the police literally can't be criticised. Like, you know, people always just say, you know, after those Mohammed cartoons came out in Denmark, and say, oh, the Muslims are so bloody touchy. It's like, but the police give them a run for their money. All right, so terrorism, inciting. The police. I make myself laugh. Terrorism incident declared after stabbing in Stanwell, Surrey. Oh, this is Surrey, right? So that now this is terrorism now, a stabbing, you know. And this is exactly what happened, you know, after 9/11 and when things were getting really silly. There was a guy in I think it was a Hackney station. He stabbed someone and shouted Allahu Akbar. And immediately that was a terrorist incident. Brilliant. Do you know what I mean? This is, you know, as long as they can keep the fear machine rolling, they'll do it. So now, hell, if you're a white dude and you're thinking about going out and stabbing or shooting someone tonight, think about it again, because you're going to be adding to terrorist crime statistics now. So, you know, that wouldn't be good either. Obviously, what you might be about to do is deplorable, but it could be worse as well for all of us. So think about that. Right, 50-year-old man was arrested yesterday in Stanwell, Surrey, on suspicion of attempted murder and racially aggravated public order. Now, that's what the crime should be. Okay. But, of course, if you can try someone under the Terrorist Act and detain them under the Terrorism Act, well, you've got him for like 15 days. That's good. The 19-year-old victim sustained a 50-year-old man against a 19-year-old. I don't know why that's significant, but, you know. And sustained non-life-threatening injuries, remains in hospital. Surrey police were called to Viola Avenue just before 10:30 p.m. to reports of a man acting aggressively and shouting racist comments whilst carrying a baseball bat and a knife. On Twitter, the Prime Minister Theresa said, vile, hateful, far-right extremism has no place in our society. Yeah, can we just not call it far-right extremism, just call it racism? It's just a racist idiot being a twat. But, you know, now you've got to label it differently now to push this narrative, so that's fine. So actually thank the emergency services for their handling of the terrorist incidents. Right. Assistant Commissioner Neil Basu. Now, what also makes it interesting is that, you know, and don't forget, like, you know, you have very far left and left-leaning, you know, media outlets have been pushing for this for a few years, you know, this alt-right, this far-right narrative. But don't forget, the Conservative government buys into all this shit as well, as long as it suits their agenda. So don't forget, and all these outlets are sort of enemy, you know, declare the Tories to be their fucking enemies. You know, they think the Tories are the worst thing to happen since I don't know, HIV. But the Tories will use this shit as well. So I don't know why you want to be pushing it as well, you know, because they're using it. But no, apparently that's fine. That's fine. So everyone's complicit. It's good. So it's the hallmarks of a terror event inspired by the far right, and therefore it has been declared a terrorist incident. Well, in that regards, like, think like, you know, if you looked at Tower Hamlets, so Tower Hamlets has got like, it's one of the most impoverished areas of Britain. It's also got a high crime rate, and it's also majority is like people from Bangladesh. It's Bangladeshis, Bengalis, blah 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 blah. So you know, there's high levels of heroin abuse there, addiction. You know, like any inner city areas, hell of a lot of fucking violence. So are you going to attribute all that to Islamic terror now as well? What are you going to do? What is this? A racist old nutbag does a crime and now it's terrorism. It's like, you always wondered where it was going to end with the whole Islam thing. It's like, oh, it's here. And where's it going to go after this? They'll come for every motherfucker eventually. Everyone's going to get got. Kids are going to be terrorists soon. Toddlers. They're going to be toddler terrorists in 10 years. Okay, but you know, fine. Keep it going. Oh, yeah. So all the marks of a terror event. Well, I remember when terrorism was, you know, bombs and the IRA and, you know, organised. But now apparently you can just be a prick. Be a terrorist. Isn't that great? Activists have no credence, and neither did terrorists. So, you know, just live in an age when anyone can be whatever they want. Isn't it? Anyone could be, you could be whatever you want, little schnookums. This allows us to use all of the specialist capabilities available to establish the full circumstances of this attack. Oh, wonderful. So they can use more resources, spend more money, and imprison people for longer and detain them for longer. Right? Now, I'm not, you know, throwing any shade on this incident. It's deplorable, and this guy's a prick. And I'm glad the other dude, I'm glad the victim is okay, as far as we know. Hopefully, I haven't checked up on this story since it's just today. All right, but the fact is, you can see what this is. You say this is an event, and who knows? Maybe like this will suit the police as well. Like the police are constantly moaning about they want more funding, even though all the police do is just look at Twitter and arrest people for posting lyrics about songs and having and feminists arguing amongst each other is their main concerns. But you know, this is, I mean, look, you watch the last series of The Wire when they start, you know, in the last, if you haven't seen it, spoiler alert, but it doesn't matter, even if you know the story, it's still great to watch anyway, it doesn't, like, so McNulty, so there's been cuts to the police force, so Jimmy McNulty, the maverick detective, finds out that if you make indentations on people's necks after they're dead, coroners will determine it as a strangulation because they can't tell if it happened before the death or after the death. So he finds homeless dead people, and he fakes these strangulations, and he fakes a serial killer, and then suddenly the faucet is turned on, and they start throwing money at the police department to catch a serial killer because the serial killer gets everyone riled up. So if the police can be like, oh, you know, so with terrorism, they, you know, police in, I suppose, like heavily Muslim areas, could have asked for more funding and said, oh, no, yeah, this drugs gang are part of Al Qaeda. What, the Jamaicans? Yeah, the Jamaican Muslims. Oh, right, okay, right, yeah, totally. I'm sure one of them's got a Quran under his bed. So we need some more money, and we need all that. We need that terrorism dollar. And now, I mean, you know, what's it? UK's like 86% white. Hell, if you turn every white person into a fucking potential terrorist, because like it ain't just Irish people now, baby, it's everybody, baby. Then hell, you could get loads of money funneled through for incidents like this. Hell, they'll start making up that victims are fucking part of another group. Do you think this is bullshit? Like, come on, it wouldn't surprise me if that's the police thinking, going, well, this whole far right thing is getting loads of money, right? We can deal with this stabbing much more efficiently. I mean, come on, this is how it goes down. Detective Superintendent Karen Mitzi of Surrey Police said it was a shocking and worrying incident. Yeah, we know. So Namir Salem, who lives about 50 minutes down the same road, said he heard a man shouting racist slurs out the window on Saturday night around 8 p.m. Salem, who came to London 6 years ago from Syria, said that he had moved to the area 2 weeks ago. 24 said he started saying some crazy things about Muslims and just shut the window and went inside. I'm a Muslim. I got a little bit worried. So yeah, that's all we need to know about that story. Now, on the other hand, this happened today. I don't know if this has been updated. So there's been a shooting in Holland. Now, let's not show his face or his name, because we don't want to make... I know with my principles I was saying about earlier, but the photo just came up. I'm sorry. So, a man's been arrested following a shooting on a tram in the Dutch city of Utrecht, which left 3 people dead. Police say 5 others were injured in the incident, and authorities say the attacker's motives remain unclear. So you got 2 stories here. So one's about basically a racist nut job stabbing someone, and now we have a Turkish man, trying to shoot up a tram. Now the victim in Surrey is alive. Here there are 3 people dead. 5 others were injured in the incident. The authorities say the attacker's motives remain unclear. How interesting is this? So the attacker's motives remain unclear, yet the guy in Surrey is completely clear that he is a far-right terrorist, whereas this Turkish man remains unclear. Think about it. If this was 5 years ago, even if that 3 years ago, this would not be reading the same. Now, good thing without speculation. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Too often it was just assumed that we'd be attributing terrorism acts, and like I keep saying, to lone lunatics. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that the media's given up what they do best, by creating bullshit narratives. So here, so now they've refrained. Now they've stopped with the whole Muslim thing. Yeah, Islamic terrorism. Yeah. One racist old man is now being investigated under the Terrorism Act. A Turkish man opens fire with a gun. So you got one man with a baseball bat and a knife, and another man with a gun on a tram. And the attacker's motives remain unclear. So what happened on Monday? So about 10:45 local time, police were called to reports of shooting. What happened on Monday? It's still today. This is Monday. It's a weird thing to say. Aboard the city's trams at 24. I'm not reading that. So one witness said the man started shooting wildly. Okay, blah, 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 blah. What do we know about the suspect? Police said the shooting appeared to be a terrorist incident. So the police say it's a terrorist incident. But as we know, there's no mention of anything being of terrorist nature in this article. Terrorism is not mentioned, except when they say counter-terrorism officers, when they're referencing what the police. So they reference the counter-terrorism officers were there, and they've said what the police have said, but not once has this article said, it's terrorists. But in this article, terrorism incident declared. So they've gone into. So the Dutch have declared it a terrorist incident, but the newspaper hasn't gone along with what they're saying. All right. So prosecutors said it could have been motivated by family reasons. Okay. Jihadist groups, including those aligned with Islamic State group, have long operated in the region. So, Bisman told the BBC Turkish that this guy, I'm not going to say his name, had previously fought in Russia's Republic of Chechnya. Right, so he's been fighting in Chechnya. But it could be for family reasons that he opened fire on a bunch of people. Right, okay. He was arrested. Jihadist groups, including those aligned with Islamic State group, have long operated in the region. He was arrested because of his connections with IS, but released later. So he's even been arrested. He's been arrested for connections to Islamic State. But we don't know if it's pretty unclear what his motivations are. I mean, we don't want to be going labeling people. No, we won't do that. Right, okay. That's fine. You go your own way. So Prime Minister Mark Rutte said the country had been jolted by an attack which he described as deeply disgusting. And that's pretty much it. So how interesting is that? Now, look. Think about how many racist and just general nasty attacks happen in the UK. UK is like, you know, a lot of violence happens in the UK, like on the streets. Like, a lot of violence, right? Living in little villages, there's fucking loads of violence going on all the time. Right? It's Britain. It's what we do. So how much of that can you attribute to sort of terrorism? But like shootings, those kind of shootings don't happen often in the UK. Those kind shootings do happen often, but that kind of thing don't happen often across Europe. But apparently can't be jumping to conclusions. So let's see. So let's look at the Stanmore stabbing. See what we can get on Google. So obviously this will be like what Google thinks. Obviously, if you don't know how Google rankings is done, it's obviously done on SEO properties. It's what people have found to be the most, it's click rates and how much people read of stuff. None of this will be paid advertising. So here we go. So Stanmore stabbing, terror investigation in Surrey. Now originally this was on Huffington Post. So let's see what the BBC say, because they've reported on new tracks. So Stanmore stabbing, terror investigation in Surrey. Counter-terror police are investigating a suspected far-right inspired counter-terror police are on this one. A stabbing. Hallmarks of terror. Heard banging. Yeah, right. So, okay. So, it's a terrorist incident. What do we have in the Standard? It's being treated as a terrorist incident inspired by the far right. So inspired by the far right. How is it inspired? How do we know it's inspired by the far right? Just go away, cookie thing. Blah, 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 blah. Police are committed to attacking all signs of toxic extremist ideology, which is potential to threaten public life. I can't see. Where this inspired by the far right comes from. Maniac screaming. Now let's see what the Sun say. The Sun being the bigot's Bible. How are they going to frame it? It'd be interesting. Maniac screaming, kill Muslim stabbed teenager in Tesco car park near Heathrow in far-right terror attack. Obviously, they've put it in question marks, but... I mean, not speech marks, not question marks. Okay, so, again, it's a terror attack. So here we have terror attack, blah, blah, blah. Man knifed the far right inspired terror. See, what was this far right inspired? Like, just because you're like a fucking anti-Muslim or just a racist or whatever, now it's like far right inspired. It's interesting. So that's what they say about it. IS. Now, let's look at the Dutch. So let's look at the Utrecht shooting. Now these stories, there's lots of featured stories. What's down? So all the major, a lot of the major outlets. Guardian's not up there. Mirror is. Let's try to see the more left-leaning ones. Independent. Police say assailants shouted far-right slogans. Now, I wonder what these slogans... I'm sorry, but what will these slogans be? Because what are far-right slogans? It should just be just a load of horrible shit, wouldn't it? What's a far-right slogan, exactly? Does it say? Far-right slogans. We are continuing. That's fair. Blah, 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 and I can't see where it says. It is believed that the offender made racial comments and statements promoting extreme far-right views before carrying out an attack, but they won't say what it is, so we just don't know what he was saying. So, who's reporting on this shooting? Now look who comes up. Like, so you got this Stanwell stabbing. Now we're on page 2 right now, and the Independent's there. Look on page 1 of Google. So you got the BBC twice. Get Surrey, obviously local news comes up there. Standard, Evening Standard, The Sun, The Mirror, ITV.com, Facebook, Birmingham Mail, and then page 2, Independent, Surrey Police, obviously in your area. Reddit, Evening Express, News Now, Daily Mail, it's on page 3. Guardian only. Surrey stab victim may have been targeted because of appearance. Oh God, is this because of appearance? Right. Well, that's what racists do. It's all about. That's strange to. Because of his appearance, what? Like a racist guy attacks someone because he looks like someone he doesn't like because he's a racist. Yeah, that's a bit of a weird one. So, but Utrecht shooting. We have additions. So we got CNN, BBC, Sky, Al Jazeera, New York Times, The Telegraph, Vox, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, The Guardian. Let's see what The Guardian have to say. So, police have arrested a man suspected of shooting 3 people dead and injuring 5 more on a tram in the Dutch city of Utrecht, apparently in a family dispute. So he was detained on the street in the north of the city several hours after the shooting which happened. So it's a family dispute. So who did he shoot? Right. National Terrorism Coordinator. But the National Terrorism Coordinator's there. Turkey's state-run Anadolu news agency, citing relatives of the suspect's family, said whatever his name is, had fired at a woman for family reasons, then shot at others who tried to help her. Utrecht police issued CCTV pictures of him. Let's get rid of his face. Unlike France and Belgium, the Netherlands has not had a major terror attack in recent years, Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte said. The country had been rocked by what happened. So, like, this sort of chops and changes between it and the Turkish news outlets. It's interesting that they say that because Erdogan, president of Turkey, who is a bit of a well, he's not too favourable amongst human rights. People like human rights. Staunch Muslim, conservative Muslim. He's been using the whole New Zealand incident for his own political gain at rallies. Apparently, he's even shown the video at his rallies because I think he's up for re-election. Blah 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 blah. So it's interesting how how his sort of news outlets would be, Turkish news outlets would be trying to say, "Oh no, it was a family dispute," but then it chops and changes. It says, "Oh, it's terrorism. Oh, it's a family dispute." Well, which one is it? All right. But look how it dominated. This is all world news, but the UK news. Obviously, this is a UK incident, but this is international news. Whereas they're making this out, this far right, when a sort of terrorist incident happens, don't you think the rest of the world should sort of pick up on it and going, oh, terrorist incident happens in the UK. Terrorist incident in Stanwell in Surrey. Man was stabbed and beaten with a baseball bat by a 50-year-old loon bag. The guy's alive. Well, this dominates. This is Google UK. We're Google in the UK. Okay. This is what dominates British press. With this Utrecht shooting. Not much in the British press. And very sort of vague about the terrorist nature of it. Tell you, this is. Let's go on the Guardian. Let's see if you because if you go on the main page, they'll have the news stories. Let's see where this figures. where that other, because this is all recent news, so it'd be interesting. So we're still talking about Christchurch, Brexit. Well, obviously, Utrecht tram shooting is here. Okay, and the Stanwell thing. Are we down here? Okay, that's interesting. But but it's a major terrorist incident though. It's so weird. It's so. But yeah, standard. Right. Oh no, it's got his name on it again. I want to stop. It's very hard to look at the news and not show his name and face. So I apologise. I'm doing this on the fly. I'm sorry. I don't want any of these people. So let's look at the BBC front page and see what the BBC saying. So if we go on BBC, let's click on the news. So Utrecht is here with his face. See, what's also interesting is kind of the way Lammy and Dooley. That's gonna have to be addressed today. But it is interesting how it sort of dominates in Google, and they're all saying it's a terrorist thing. Then you got this guy in Utrecht, and they're sort of, well, it's not really. It's a family dispute. Oh, we can't speculate if it's terrorism, even though all the the anti-terrorism units involved. And the guy fought in Chechnya and was arrested for links to Islamic State. Okay, even if it was a family dispute, a few years ago that would be a terrorist attack. But now it's this, and yet but a terrorist attack should be big news globally. So we got this stabbing in Stanwell, non-lethal stabbing so far as we know. So, like, but the rest of the world isn't going, oh, major terrorist attention, but we're supposed to see this as terrorist. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's got the significance of its terrorist nature is being pumped into us, as you can see with all these news outlets, but the rest of the world are like, no, we look at the real terrorist incident that we think is a terrorist incident, which is in Utrecht. Obviously, what's going on in Christchurch. What I'm saying is like the narrative has been changed, and this whole far right thing, they're just going to keep pushing it, and they're going to use it the same way they used the terrorism bills after 9/11 and 7/7 and so on. Same way they used those to like fuck with people. That's the best way to say it. They say, oh, limit our freedom of speech and censor us and shut us down and shut down dissent. But they are shutting down dissent, even to an extent that the Gab app Dissenter, which is a plugin where you can comment on anything on the internet, where people can have discussions. They've banned it in New Zealand because of obviously the way they've tried to smear Gab. It's called Dissenter. Something's called Dissenter, and then they ban it because it's of dissent. When you think about it, how much are they going to use this now? Now they can apply a terrorism bill to far right extremism, and we know. And the thing is, yeah, fair enough. Far right, any sort of extremist terrorism. But this is really reaching as terrorism, and that's the thing. And if you think any sort of criticisms of anything that is left leaning, because people get called far right and alt right, who don't even criticize Islam, have no problem with Islam, have no problem with immigration, but will criticize all kinds of lunatic stuff that goes on there. Whether it's issues of gender, all these different genders, or giving puberty blockers to little kids, or homosexuality, and or people's views on what else is there? Feminism, whatever it is, all these far left-leaning things. They will label you alt-right and label you far-right for sort of speaking out on any of them. They've smeared loads of people like this. And if they smear all those people like that, they can get them shut down and all dissent. And it's all just an ideological war going on. But it's where, in the UK, so if you're going to say something that they don't like, they can call you far-right. And what's going to happen? they'll be monitoring you. And the police can use their, the powers that have been bestowed on them by the government to really fuck with your life. Yeah. I ain't down with that. But so strange that we were kind of told this was what would happen years ago by conspiracy loons. People I dismissed as conspiracy nutters. I believed it at first because I was young. I was still doing a lot of dope. And then after a while I was like, come on. A lot of these people push, anti-Semitic propaganda, and I went down with it. I don't like the whole thing of, they take over the central banks. It's the Rothschild. They own all the central banks of the world. That is pure nonsense. But the stuff that they would, people have been talking about for years, whether it was Alex Jones or it was in Zeitgeist or whatever, whoever, about all this terrorism thing. And even in loose change, all the 9/11 truther people, I think it was an inside job. The main thing they were saying is so they could push forward these terrorism acts. And obviously you dismiss it because you're like going, oh come on, it wasn't an inside job. Like, stop being silly, just because they don't understand how metal bends. Everyone became a constructional engineer after 9/11, going, no, buildings don't fall like that. It's like, oh really? How many demolitions have you been part of recently? Do you know what I mean? But they were saying the same things over and over, like the reasons behind why they thought they did it. And shit, there's a lot of truth in it. As in the eventual outcome that they predicted, what they said would happen, is happening. And now I'm like, no, I just don't know what to fucking believe. Oh, Jesus Christ. And they shut down Alex Jones. When he got too big, they shut him down. And now I'm like, what? Fuck. Do you see what I'm saying? How can you? And it's like, oh my god, how can you be a free thinking, critical thinking, try and have regular thoughts and not be amongst the weirdos and the freaks, people going, the all these Illuminati nut jobs and shit. But shit, I'm starting to. They're pushing people into fringes and shutting people down. It's really weird. So they're getting everything, because the mainstream has changed of what the mainstream is. Online is mainstream, and now it's like they're pushing people who are dissenting. They're pushing them to the conspiracy nut side. All right, you join the conspiracy nutters, and then the only people who align themselves with people who have concerns, and like I said, concerns. People who are labelled racist, but these people who are concerns, who have grown up with almost 2 decades of the media pumping Muslim Islamic fear into their brains, and then they turn around and shat on them and told them they're pieces of shit, when it's like, what else do you expect them to be thinking? And they're pushing them over to because the only people who take them is the far right. And this is the problem. This is what you've done, and the push is continuing to happen now, and it's getting worse. And they'll say, don't like Tommy Robinson. It's like, well, you keep giving him so much fuel for his fire, and you keep making him bigger. And I was like, oh. So, yeah. So you best get used to a whole there's going to be a tidal wave of censorship and shutdowns coming. Really is. It's coming. This is it. Because we have this. So, sleep tight. There's